Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because folks, life's too short to be miserable. Welcome back, Inspiring Possible people, to wherever you're at in the world. I hope that you're having a fabulous day. And I'm so excited that you came back for another inspiring conversation. It's so good to have you here. And listen, if you're really looking for some inspiration today, then you've came to the right place, because I have a pretty cool guest who has really done some pretty incredible things, but also had her share of challenges to move through to do those incredible things. And so I think you're going to be really inspired by her story, her mission, and even some of the goals we were talking about that she has that I think are pretty incredible before we push the record button. But I want to take a moment just before we get started to, again, thank you for giving your ears and your time. Hopefully the heart of this podcast is to bring you guests or just ideas or ways to reconsider how to live life. I mean, sometimes we get stuck in our own limiting beliefs or our own limiting mindset about what might be possible for us. And so hopefully today's episode will help you expand a little bit of maybe an idea of what could be possible for you despite whatever thing you find yourself facing. Because guess what? It's possible. It's possible. So, Leanne, I have Leanna Scaglione. Did I say it right?
You
Yay,
did.
winning with me on the show today. So, welcome, Leanne.
Hi, thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah. So, we were talking right before we pushed record that you are right now like weeks away, right? Weeks at
Hmm.
this point for going to run the Berlin Marathon.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
For 4.5, no, 3.5 weeks. Oh my goodness.
3.5 weeks. Okay, I even got an
Mhm.
email recently. I'm going on this hiking because we talked about like I'm a hiker, maybe not a runner, folks, but I have a hiking thing coming up in 10 weeks. And I haven't really been training really hardcore for it, Leanne. So maybe we'll talk about training and preparation. But I got
Mhm.
an email yesterday. It was like, guys, this is 10 weeks away. You should be your training should be in high gear. And I was like, well, if I'm not in high gear now, I've just got activated to get into high gear. So tell me a little bit about kind of your story, because I know that you have an interesting story that's really led you to the love of running and you have goals associated with that running. So maybe tell a little bit about how you even got to like being able to run in the Berlin Marathon only a few weeks away.
Yeah. So I got into running during the pandemic. I was actually one of those kids in high school where it was like, don't make me run. Please don't make me run.
Okay, so you were that person. So you get how I'm
Yes.
feeling. Okay, great. You see me. Okay.
You are seen. Don't worry. I thought it was the most horrible thing to do, but in the pandemic, I just felt trapped. I live in New York City, so I'm in a smaller space, and I was doing at home workouts, and I was like, I need to get outside. And coincidentally, where I live, there's a river walk. I live right along the East River, so I had some fresh air accessible to me. And I was like, let me go for a walk. And that walk ended up turning into a run. And I was really proud of myself for doing that, not just because I grew up hating running, but because I actually have nerve damage in my right leg because I have what's called NF2 related schwannomatosis, which is a genetic disorder that causes tumors to grow along the nervous system. I was diagnosed when I was 16, and because of a very large tumor in my lower spine that took 2 surgeries to remove, I ended up with really bad nerve damage in my right leg. I was actually in a wheelchair, not able to walk. So being able to run, I was very impressed with myself.
Right, being
And
able to
as soon
run's
as
like still borderline miracle, it sounds like.
Yes, borderline miracle because the impact of running actually triggers right where that line of nerve damage is. So I was hesitant to even try it later in life after getting out of the wheelchair because I was like, I don't know if my body can handle that impact. Turns out it could. And I signed up for a race in Central Park, and that was it. I drank the Kool-Aid and never went back.
I do hear it is kinda like a I guess maybe I haven't pushed myself enough to really get to that Kool-Aid factor, you know? But I hear that's what I do hear. It's like once you really get in the habit, then it is that runner's high Kool-Aid, then, "Okay, I'm gonna keep going and do this." So, yeah, so I
Yeah.
guess whenever you were kind of still more wheelchair, then they were probably like, "No, running is not in your picture for you." I'm assuming somebody said that to you at some point, or did they?
In a way, I was actually originally training to be a professional ballerina, and I thought I had a dance injury. And an MRI later found out it was a tumor in my lower spine that was causing me the pain in my right leg. And when the tumor was finally fully removed, they were like, "There's probably a chance you're not going to be dancing after this, and pursuing this professionally." And for me, it just flipped a switch in my brain of like, "Oh, you told me no? Okay, let's do this."
Isn't that interesting? I think for some people, they'll hear that and they'll be like, "This is it." And then sometimes for people, it's like, "You told me no, I'm gonna show you." I guess is how it impacted you, yeah.
Yeah, it just triggered that like angry side of me where I was like, this is not my life. This is not how it was meant to be or how it's going to end."
Okay, so tell me what happened after that. Did you, like, still dance, or what was the next thing for you?
The first thing was get out of the wheelchair.
Yeah.
So I just powered through and I tested my leg. I was not great. Basically could only stand for maybe like a couple seconds until my leg gave out from underneath me. It was like it was permanently asleep with like pins and needles and everything. Um,
So I'm assuming
so
extreme pain. Did you have pain too? Like extreme pain, yeah.
it, yeah, it felt like fibromyalgia. So it burned when things touched it and everything like that. Even when like a sheet would touch my skin, it started to hurt because the nerves have no idea what was going on because they just had a grapefruit-sized tumor chilling with it, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden it was gone. Um, but I just slowly learned to just shuffle from place to place throughout the house. And for a little bit, I transferred to using a cane, but otherwise, I just made sure that I was keeping moving and trying really hard to get walking again. And I would go on walks with my mom in the neighborhood, and then slowly was like, I want to dance again. I'm going to try this. And I'm happy to say I danced all through college. So I was really proud of myself for doing that. I did not go back to ballet though. I couldn't bring myself to do that. But I switched to contemporary dance. And I actually did musical theater for a bit too.
Oh, that's awesome. So you really pushed yourself through it. And this was all kind of like in your teenage years, right? Towards transition into college. How was that? I'm just curious as a teenager, because, I have a teenager actually in my own house right now, and I can think of all the
Mhm.
feelings that we have as teenagers. And I can also know how, like, there is a lot of dreams and aspirations that we have. And I'm sure as a teenager, this was something that was like, again, probably earth shattering at one point for you to kind of discover and then have to go through.
It was really difficult, actually. It was probably one of the most mentally challenging times of my life. I Me trying all of these different things was actually really rooted in the fact that I was just trying to grasp onto what I lost. And I say I went through the 5 stages of grief with all of this. Um, and going back to high school in a wheelchair, that was even more difficult for me. I was so afraid of being judged by everyone, but in a weird way, everyone was okay with it. They helped me out with whatever I needed. If anything, they were more excited about borrowing the wheelchair and trying out cool tricks with it in the hallway. Um, that was very funny to deal with. But when it came to college, my mom, she reminded me, she's like, you don't have to go to college with a career set in mind. She's like, I don't care if you change your major 20,000 different times. Go to get out of the house and experience the world. Meet new people. See what other people are like outside of how I raised you. Use that as your college experience and figure out your future later.
What an awesome perspective. I don't think many parents would give their kids that perspective of like, "Listen, I just need you to go and go get some
Mhm.
experiences and maybe see what is different than." And were you living in New York at the time, or where were you at when you were a teenager?
I was in Connecticut, in a very small town. I ended up graduating high school with 60 people.
Oh, okay, so that is small town, yeah.
Very small town, but it made it easier for me in the recovery process. Like I said, with the wheelchair, like more people were open to it, and I didn't have to worry about going down the hallway in large crowds because it was just such a tiny school. I just knew I didn't want to get stuck there. And my mom was like, please just go experience the world because I don't want you to get stuck either.
Yeah, and so that's what you did, it sounds like.
Hmm. That's what I did. And I did change my major 6 times.
Okay, I was gonna ask because I was really curious. I'm like, where did you land in this kind of like path of learning, and then where did it lead you to that you are now?
I started as a communications major. I then went to criminal justice. And then I did criminal justice with psychology. Um, and then I did just psychology. And then somehow I ended up with creative writing. I think there was like another major in between there, but
Okay, so the final result was creative writing, but along the path, you picked up things like criminal justice, psychology, all the things. Well, and where has kind of like that experience led you to where you are today? Because I'm sure that was kind of a pivotal getting through college, pushing yourself to continue to do things that you love, try new things, push your body kind of past what maybe other people thought it maybe would be capable of as far as like in that recovery process and things like that.
yeah, going through college, I think senior year was probably the toughest because you're reaching that pivotal moment in your life of like, okay, like this is technically adolescence ending in a way. Um, And so part of me was like, it's time to acknowledge your diagnosis of NF2. And I wasn't really ready for it. Despite like me still going to doctor's appointments, I at that point had been on 2 experimental drug trials to try to shrink other tumors that were found in my body. And I still just didn't mentally confront it because otherwise it was extremely invisible for me unless you looked at an MRI scan. And so I was able to go about my life relatively normal. And so when I chose to face it, it kind of blew up in my face a little bit because I jumped into the deep end rather than slowly walking into the shallow end and gradually getting there. Luckily, the end result, it helped me realize that like there is a balance. And I made it so far already with living my life to its fullest capability that like why should that stop me even when I'm acknowledging it? Like, you can still do
Yeah.
that and acknowledge it. Just find your balance, and it took a long time to find that balance, I won't lie, but that epiphany came, like, as I was graduating college.
Okay. So what do you feel like is your why now? Like what motivates you and pushes you and what are you passionate about that you want to be able to help share with others and like what is kind of driving you at this point in your life?
Well, back in 2022, I found out that my right vestibular schwannoma, which is a brain tumor that grows off of the vestibular nerve, I have I had the right one, and I have one on the left one side still. And they press on a bunch of nerves, including the auditory nerve, the vestibular nerve, optic nerve. I found out that it was growing way too big. It was doubling in size every 6 months. And I needed to go on my third experimental drug trial, or it was going to be surgery to remove it. And so I really needed this drug trial to work. And at that time, I was gearing up for my first ever half marathon, the New York City Half Marathon in 2022. And as I was running that race, I was thinking about what I wanted to do with everything. It's like maybe it's time to share my story online and everything to let people know that like, yeah, I'm living with this. Drug trials aren't as scary as you think they are. And coincidentally during that race at around like mile 3, I saw up ahead of me another runner. They were wearing a blue shirt, just like this one. And on the back, there's a big white square that says end NF on it. And I started crying because I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time in my life I'm ever seeing NF so candidly out in the wild. And I found out that runner was with Children's Tumor Foundation, and their main goal, Children's Tumor Foundation, is to fund research to find a cure for all of NF because there's no cure right now. It's an incurable genetic disorder. And that really gave me my why. That really motivated me that, like, I can do this for everyone dealing with NF and show them that their life is worth living and they don't the struggle doesn't have to be as difficult as mine was. And if I can make someone's life easier by sharing my story, that's what I'm gonna do.
What do you think that you wish you would have had? Because and also I'm curious how how many people do struggle with NF? Because I'll be honest with you, hearing your story is the first time that I've ever been brought awareness. So you're bringing even awareness to me, you know? So how many people do struggle with this or are diagnosed with this? And then I'm also curious, like for you, what do you wish? Because I know now you said I want to be that person that gives hope and help spread awareness, but also give people a hope that you can be able to still create your dreams even in the midst of having to live with this. I'm just curious what you would have wished somebody would have given to you during the time when you were first diagnosed and having to deal with the multiple things, like even at the end of college, like fully grappling the, I guess, what you were dealing with and having to live with.
So when I was first diagnosed, I it was very difficult. My mom reached out to Children's Tumor Foundation way back then. And they have a patient outreach program where they're able to connect you to someone your age with your diagnosis. Because there's three types of NF: NF1, NF2 related schwannomatosis, and schwannomatosis. Now, the problem is with NF, it affects everyone differently. So when I got to meet someone who also had NF2 and was the same age as me, they were greatly affected by their NF2. And they had far more surgeries than I experienced. And I just could not relate to them in
Yeah, because it
that
sounds like there's a
aspect.
range in how it impacts you, and then I guess where it does, I guess, grow, as what I'm hearing you say, like these tumors kind of start to
Mhm.
grow, where they grow, and that kind of probably impacts also kind of function and things like that.
Exactly. Every person is different when it comes to their tumors. So with NF2 related schwannomatosis, one of the most common tumors that you're going to get is the twin vestibular schwannoma tumors. But at the same time, my vestibular schwannoma tumors will grow differently than the next person. They'll
Yeah.
react differently to drugs than the other person. So it's really been difficult to pinpoint how to find a cure because of that. And it's rare. It's a very rare condition. At a whole, for all types, NF affects one in every 2,000 births.
Okay.
For NF2 specifically, my type, it affects one in every 25,000 births.
Okay. So, yeah, rare by comparison of, like, some other things, which is
Yep.
why maybe did you even the first time when they told you this is what you have, did your mom or any of y'all kinda even realize this was a thing?
No,
Yeah.
no, we had no idea what it was. Also, don't Google it.
Yeah.
I would I would say if you are ever diagnosed with a rare condition like NF, the problem is with Google is that it's always going to present the worst case scenarios to you. And it's going to be very scary to read those worst case scenarios. Which is why I recommend going to sites that actually provide the correct information, like Children's Tumor Foundation, because
Okay.
you're going to see some scary stuff when you just
Yeah,
straight
so
up
if you find yourself in
Google.
this position, don't folks listen to what Leanne's saying, don't just go Google the internet. Go to the people that that are professionals and really can, give the accurate information. So, but I guess I'm hearing, like, when you were matched with this person back when you were younger, it just wasn't something that you could relate to because it was so different, and it sounds like it impacts each person very differently. So did you
Yes.
wish you have somebody though that was kind of like in the same is that where you kind of maybe were like what you wish you would have had at that point in time?
I wish I had a bit more of that accessibility of someone who's more similar to me. This girl, for instance, she was already fully deaf because of her vestibular schwannomas. For for me, I didn't become fully deaf until 2024 when I had my right vestibular schwannoma removed, which is very funny that I'm wearing over the ear headphones right now. Right one, not even hearing anything there. Um, but I couldn't relate to her because she also spoke sign language. I don't know sign language yet. So that communication, we had a barrier in that aspect. iPhones weren't even invented yet at that time. So we couldn't even do live transcription on our cell phones like we can today. And so that barrier, it was really hard to break through for me. And yeah, there were Facebook support groups, but there was no age regulation on those, so you had people who were in their 70s in their diagnoses, um, and it was just I hate to say it, there was a lot of negative tone associated with it, and so I found them to be depressing to be part of, and I was already dealing with my own
Oh, you're only
depression.
dealing with your own stuff of, like I'm sure I don't know about y I don't know because 'cause I've never been in this kind of a situation, but I would start to be thinking even as a teenager, like, "Why me? Why is this happening to me?"
Mhm.
And the last thing you probably really need is people being able to foreshadow a vision of what the future could be that's really not necessarily something that's positive one, even despite knowing that you want the reality, but you also don't want this is the worst case scenario to be put into your line of vision is guess is what I'm hearing you say.
Oh, yeah, like, it's just something that was I didn't wanna hear because I also was just struggling to, like you said, understand, like, why was this happening to me? Because, yes, NF is a genetic disorder, but I'm a spontaneous mutation. No one in my family passed it on to me. It's a dominant gene, so there's a 50-50 shot that you're gonna pass it on to your kids. I have a 50-50 shot of passing it on to whatever child I have, and so for me as a spontaneous mutation, I was like, "Oh," it was a true why me moment because I couldn't turn around and like blame someone and say, this is your fault. It's like, no, my body just messed up when it was reproducing cells and DNA strands.
Yeah, and there's really no reason or cause, and that's why they're still doing the
Mhm.
research to figure out what's the best way, not only treatment, but what's the root that's causing that could then also be able to be treated if you know what's the driver behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, full good.
So it sounds like that running that half marathon was really kind of the another turning point. It sounds like you had a few clarifying moments throughout your life that was like, okay, this is what I should be doing in this season. And it almost sounds like, COVID forced the running thing, but then I guess in a way, because it pushed you out of your kind of maybe comfort zone or things that you wouldn't typically do, and you're found solace in that and then through the running, then lets you to be like, "Oh, look at that. That person has that shirt. Maybe I should start to tell my story." How hard was it for you to tell your story at first?
I actually found it really easy. I've always found it very easy to talk about my NF for some reason. I think because when I was first diagnosed, I had a weird detachment towards it where I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is happening to me, like, yeah, so whatever," and I just move on with my life because it's like I can still be I was able to still be treated as normal because nothing was, physically apparent. Whereas after my 2024 surgery, I had facial paralysis when I woke up, like, you can kinda see it right now. I thankfully had facial reanimation surgery last year, and it's helped significantly repair the nerve damage that I have had on my face, but I don't know if I would have had an easier time talking about it if it was more visible. So because of that, talking about it was always very easy for me, and I just was like, "Yeah, this is what happens in my life." Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what is your whole hope now? I know part of it is raising awareness and also being able to help
Mhm.
people be connected and aware that the Children's Tumors Foundation's out there, but, like, what's next for Leanne, and what are you hoping to inspire in others?
So what's next is I'm hoping to be the first person to earn all 6 Abbott World Major Marathon stars with NF2 related schwannomatosis. It haven't been done yet. I am so excited to do it. Berlin Marathon in September will actually be star number 4. I'm running with Children's Tumor Foundation. And then in the spring of 2026, I'll be running the Tokyo Marathon, which will be star number 5, which I'm also running with Children's Tumor Foundation. And then all that would be left is Boston.
Yay! Well, and let's talk about this, Leanne, because we were talking about very at the beginning of the show, the preparation that it takes to really be able to actualize a goal like a marathon, like 6 stars, like being the first person to do this, right? With NF2. Tell me a little bit about like what goes in behind the scenes to actually make these goals a reality. And what are is there any challenges that you face and how do you kind of move past those?
So this goal, it actually started because of a very silly reason. There's something called the 6 Abbott World Majors marathons. And so it's New York, Chicago, Boston, London, Tokyo, and Berlin. And living in here in New York City, I was like, obviously, I have to run the New York City Marathon. And during that training process, and one of the team runs that we had for the locals running for Children's Tumor Foundation, one of the other runners told me about the Abbott World Majors. And for me, when I found out that there was like a list to complete, I was like, "Oh my God, I have to complete the list now." So that's where it started.
Have you ever done
Just
the
what I
Enneagram, by
need.
the way? The Enneagram test? Pers
No.
It's like a personality assessment, but I'm, like, wondering, like, there is one of them that, like, really loves, like, I love there's an achievement one, but there's also an Enneagram personality type that's like, I love to have the list all checked off and finished, so I wonder if that's you.
That is probably me. I love
Like,
lists. I
challenge
have to
accepted.
do.
There's 6 stars, I need all 6 of them, or I have not completed the task.
That's really that is me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome though. So when you heard about it from this other runner, then you're like, again, challenge accepted.
Yeah, and you get a really awesome medal with it too, so I was like, "Okay."
Yeah. Well, what are some of the challenges that do come up? Like, because I mean, I know that marathon prep takes time. I know there's sometimes maybe good and bad days, but like, what helps you stay motivated? Because I mean, remind everybody that's listening how long a marathon is, just to put some context in there for people. How many miles is it?
26.2 miles.
26.2 miles. Okay. Is there ever a point on that 26.2 miles that you're like, "It would be really nice to stop here?" Or, like, what challenges do you have to really push yourself through, and what do you do to help keep pushing yourself to get to that finish line?
It's actually really funny that you say it like that because during my first ever marathon, I got to mile 19, which is where the Children's Tumor Foundation was set up to cheer. And I remember hugging the person in charge of the team for NF Endurance. And in her ear, I was like, I am rethinking all of my life choices right now. And she's like, no, you're
Who
not.
thought this
And
was a
she,
good idea?
yeah, and she shoved me. She actually pushed me forward. And she's a runner herself. So she ran with me for like a couple blocks just to keep me going. She's like, don't be mad at yourself. Do this. You put in so much work to get here. Keep going. And marathons, they get to you. It's a real mental challenge after a long time. It's not about yes, it's about physical work and letting your train getting your body willing to put up with that pain that you're inevitably going to experience, but it's a mental challenge because you gotta literally stop yourself from saying, "I'm done."
Yeah. Well, and I've actually there was, so my background a little bit, Leanne, is, I have, as a therapist, that's kind of been my career path for myself, but there was a girl that used to work with me, and she was a marathoner, and she actually wrote a few blogs one time about just kinda, like, the mental thing, and she kinda, like she told the story beautifully about kind of her own experience of going up and then going down, and then, like, you're at this point, and the different emotional things you're really having to process and move through the varied range of emotions that you have in this whole, I guess, 26.2 miles is so varied, but how you really learn a lot about yourself as you're pushing yourself through those real challenges. So, So the first one, she was like, somebody had to literally push you to say, "No, you're not giving up.
I
You're gonna honor the commitment to yourself that you said, and you're gonna keep going, and I'm gonna go a little ways with you."
Yep, and then because of that, it made me really reflect and realize that, like, I would be very upset with myself if I didn't cross that finish line running. And I knew when I was at mile 20, I was like, if I stop and walk, I'm not going to be able to continue running again. Like my legs were just at that point of fatigue. And they would have cramped up if I just stayed walking. So I was like, all right, we're gonna keep running. You don't have to go very fast. Just get over that finish line running. And I did. And that feeling, it was like euphoria. Like you just can't believe you just did something like that. And for me, it was even bigger because I wasn't technically supposed to be able to run. And on top of it, I was actually still on that third drug trial. So I had even a handicap on that side of things. And I, you know, doing that, I was like, okay, it looks like anything's possible now.
Yeah. So it's almost like a validation for you to say, like, "Yeah, this is possible, and whatever I put my mind to, I can continue to make a reality for me, even though I might be fighting against something that's outside of my control, which is, these lovely genetic things in my body that continue to wanna take on life of its own and mutate or whatever they're doing in there."
Yeah. And that's why it's like completing all six majors, it became more than just checking off a list. It became a mission to just continue proving to myself that anything is possible if you can complete all six of these, no matter what your circumstance is, no matter what surgery is going to happen, no matter what treatments you're on. And that is why, even though now I'm on an immunotherapy infusion treatment to hopefully shrink my left vestibular schwannoma and thankfully it is, um, I'm still gonna keep going. It weakens my body, it elevates my heart rate when I run, but at the same time, I'm not gonna give up something I now love doing again because of this diagnosis.
Yeah. Well, if you would have somebody that's like, "Listen, Leanne, I just don't know how to push myself through some of the pain or the challenges or whatever they're finding themselves facing." What are maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 things that you found that's just super helpful for you to keep pushing through?
I always, rather than looking at the I can't, I look at what I just accomplished. Because even during those training runs, like say for example, I set out and I'm like, I'm gonna run 12 miles today. I make it to mile 6 and I'm like, I really can't keep going. That's okay because I just ran 6 miles despite my situation. That's 6 miles more than the person who decided to stay on their couch.
That's right.
So take that and run with it, so
Yeah.
to speak. Pun intended. Like, enjoy that little win because that's what's gonna get you going, and there's a great saying with marathons as well that you're supposed to run the mile that you're in, and what that means is think about the mile that you're currently in. Don't think about mile 15 because you're still at mile 3, and that's just gonna become daunting for you. Think about mile 3. What's enjoyable about mile 3? That person cheering and having a great time? Great, enjoy that. Worry about mile 15 when you get.
Yeah, and that's so hard sometimes, right, for us because 'cause we're either looking back or looking forward and wishing we could be somewhere, but it's what I'm hearing the phrase is focus on where you're at, and eventually you'll make it to where you wanna go if you're just tackling what's right in front of you versus worrying about what's gonna come up in 5 miles from now.
Exactly, and I like to relate that to life as well because if you get so stuck on like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? You're forgetting to live in the moment and you're forgetting to enjoy what's happening right in front of you if you're focusing on the future and the what ifs too much.
Yeah. Well, Leanne, if there was one piece of maybe encouragement that you'd want to give to maybe other people that might be facing similar challenges or people that maybe find themselves also dealing with an NF diagnosis? What is one piece of like kind of, I guess, encouragement that you'd want to give to them?
Life is still going to go on, and you should participate in it, you know? And I always say, focus on what you can control, because if you get stuck on what you can't control, you're going to get stuck. And that's why I say just keep going, because you never know what you're going to miss if you don't participate.
Yeah, I like that. Participate in life. Well, I have one other final question for you, and then maybe you can kind of tell listeners after that where they can connect or follow your journey on. But if you were to give like one piece of advice, maybe it was to younger you, and it could have been younger you when you first found out about the diagnosis. It could have been college age you when you really were starting to come into some acceptance of, what you were kind of up against, or maybe it's that younger you that was doing that first race and, you're not really wanting to finish it, but the person pushes you. Like, what is one piece of if you could go back and give yourself one piece of wisdom, encouragement, advice, what would you give yourself?
Give yourself grace. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right the first time. It doesn't have to be a perfect race. It doesn't have to be planned out perfectly. You don't have to follow through on that plan perfectly. Just give yourself grace, because things happen, and do it in your own way.
Yeah, I like that. Do it in your own way. And sometimes we really do have to give ourselves grace along the journey because, it's just called human life, and there's a lot of messy
Mhm.
stuff in the middle of it, and it's just kinda like, "Okay, yeah, if I'm striving for perfection, I'm really gonna be very disappointed."
Exactly. And that's what I tell people when they're like nervous about their marathon on race day. And it's like, what? Just have fun. You're about to run an incredible route. Half the time, these races are through an incredible city. You get a tour of New York if you run the New York City Marathon. You get a tour of Berlin and you run the Berlin Marathon. I'm looking at it as a great tour guide moment.
Yeah, there you go, and you have people cheering you along.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, just have fun with it. You did it. You made it here. Enjoy it. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, well, and it is cool because then you also get to see all these incredible places that
Hmm.
maybe if you hadn't ran, it might not be a place that you would definitely have wanted to go. I don't know. Did all these places were
Exactly.
on your bucket list to show up to, or was there one that, like, if running hadn't taken you there, you might not have went?
Berlin. It's not on my bucket list. I would have to say going to Germany has never really been on my bucket list. I hear it's a great place to visit. I heard nothing but great things about visiting the city of Berlin, and that I've been told like I'm
Right,
going to
but
have
it's
a
not
lot of fun.
something that you would have bumped off a map had you not been like, "Oh, there's
No.
one of these 6 marathons that's held there." Yeah.
Yeah, it just happens to be that a marathon is there, but otherwise I don't think I would have gone there on my own.
Yeah.
Per se.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, okay. If people are like, man, I'm just motivated, encouraged just by listening to Leanna, and they want to kind of follow maybe your journey and maybe want to make sure that you're crossing that finish line in Berlin and then getting those other, all six. Where can people kind of connect with you in this online lovely world that we're in?
Yes, you guys can find me on Instagram with the username Leanna underscore running
Oh my
NF2.
gosh, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. I've been saying Leanna, not Leanna, and it's right there. And gosh, I'm gonna give myself some grace, Leanna.
Honestly, I don't even notice when people mispronounce my name. So
Okay, okay.
that's
Thank you
also
for the
fine
grace
of
that you're
me.
giving me. I don't know why. I think it's when your brain reads stuff, like mine always like wants to like once it assigns something, it's gonna keep on saying the same thing. Leanna.
Nope, I'm the same way. I am the same way. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you for the grace, Leanna. As we just talked about that. You don't have to be perfect.
Exactly.
Okay, but Leanna on Instagram, folks. Leanna,
Yes.
is that it's just Leanna?
Leanna underscore running NF2.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely make sure and link it up in the show notes. That's where your most hang out is on the Insta.
Yes, I'm also on TikTok. I do occasionally post there. It's the same handle. But I find that I'm able to just do more and interact more with Instagram, with the stories, messages with people, and things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, y'all go and follow Leanna on Instagram. So, and we'll make sure and link up her handle in the show notes so you can kind of find her. Well, Leanna, I just want to number one acknowledge you today, just for continuing to participate in life. I'm going to go use your words, right? And continuing to push yourself to really do some incredible things. But what I love about your story is that at different points in time, you learn to also link not on only your challenges, but link it with a bigger mission, which is really to kind of be able to continue to raise awareness around this that would hopefully continue to be able to fund research and hopefully be able to provide one day a cure to this, I mean, disease really is what it is that attacks kind of your body over time. And so hopefully there will be that cure. And I'm sure if there continues to be runners like you that spreading that awareness, that will continue to raise support so that they can do this important work to be able to find a cure for those that find themselves faced with this. So thank you for coming and sharing your story. Thank you for continuing to push yourself. Like, I'm inspired because listen, we already talked about this for our record. For me, being able to run like a 5K is a real stretch, right? So a marathon is something that I could even have a hard time finding myself pushing myself to do that. So the fact that you push yourself, and I know I'm excited for us to come back maybe again when you get all of those six, because I know you're going to, so that we can celebrate on the podcast again.
Oh, that would be great. I appreciate you having me and letting me share my story. I would love to see a cure for everyone with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listeners, if y'all know, I give y'all one little piece of nugget. I mean, I'm taking a lot of nuggets from Leanna today, but one of the things that she said that I wrote down that I really absolutely love that I hope you take with you today is just remember, guys, this whole life thing, it's a marathon, anyways. We all got our different things that valleys we have to cross, hills we have to trek up, distances we have to go. But, just remember to run the mile that you're in and don't forget to celebrate the wins along the way. Until next time.
That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.